Hello, my friends. I am Professor Rabia, happy to be back to outline our plan to liberate all nations from the debt burden. As the plan was being finalized, I met with two economists from the International Monetary Fund. They have between them 35 years of experience working for the fund. We spent together 3 hours going over the details of the plan, at the end of which we determined that the plan is feasible and it can be implemented without difficulty. The plan has two major parts: how to enable all nations to pay their debt now, and how to create the necessary conditions for sustained global economic development over the long run. The first part of the plan has 4 points. Number one, the designation of the International Monetary Fund as a central global bank with authority to issue a new currency to be called RAMO. R-A-M-O. The RAMO would join the dollar and the euro as a major reserve currency, giving all internationally traded commodities such as oil, silver, corn, the opportunity to be priced in RAMOs. The second point calls for all nations to pay in their own currencies what they owe today, including interest to the IMF. The IMF would open a trust account or an escrow account where all this money would be deposited and kept to meet future debt obligations of member states. The third point calls for all nations to pay an extra 10% as a management fee. This money, in fact, would be used to finance the second portion of the plan. The fourth and last point calls upon all nations to make a commitment to reducing their budget deficits by at least half a percentage point annually and to balance their budgets within 10 years. In fact, many of these nations would have no deficits the minute they pay their debt. Some of them would even have surpluses, because most of the deficits are due to the interest that nations have to pay today. Meanwhile, the designation of the International Monetary Fund as a global central bank and the issuance of the RAMO would in effect restructure the international monetary system, putting it on solid basis, similar to what we used to have many years ago when we had the gold standard. But since we have no gold anymore, a golden RAMO backed by the good faith of all nations would serve this purpose. It would become the international currency against which all currencies would be pegged. And this in turn would stabilize currencies, exchange rates, and expand international trade substantially. I estimated the total debt obligations of all nations at $73 trillion, of which the Western industrialized countries and Japan owe 61 trillion, or 83% of the total debt. This really means that this debt crisis is a rich man's crisis, not a poor man's crisis. Today, neither the United States, nor Japan, nor any of the European major economic powers is able to meet its financial obligations without borrowing more money, and going deeper and deeper in debt. This simply means that the meetings in Washington and in Europe and all the drama is only desperate attempts to manage and postpone a crisis that is getting worse hour by hour. So the only option that is left is how to get rid of the debt and close this crisis. And our plan is the only option that gives them this opportunity. Leaders need to be thinking how to create new jobs for the unemployed, how to help the poor, how to make our world safer, just, and more peaceful. They also need to be thinking about the young people, our children and grandchildren, how to give them hope and education and opportunity to live a better life. Within the coming 48 hours, I'll come back to you to outline the second part of our plan. So, till then, please keep smiling, be happy, enjoy your life, and thank you for watching and listening.